Call to order of a special meeting of Goodyear City Council, 24 July 2006. May I lead in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please provide health and welfare to all the citizens of Goodyear. Take care of our fire and police and others acting on our behalf, and certainly those serving in Afghanistan and Iraq. And please, Lord, provide enlightenment to those whose society seems to be penetrated by unabated hatred. Please provide them the enlightenment they need for all of us to live peacefully together. Amen. Frank, you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All council members are in attendance. We have 6 members of the council here this evening, and we have one who is Vice Mayor Cavalier, who's out of town but on the teleconference with us. So welcome, Frank.
Thank you.
Okay, we have minutes. I'm suggesting that the minutes are going to take quite a while to go through, and but I do know that Rorick, if you would introduce Bill, that Bill has a 6:30 requirement. Yes. He has to be out of here at 6:30, and he's here to represent business agenda number 9 Alpha. Could we go to that now, or does anybody object to that? Okay. And then we'll return to the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for agreeing to take this item out of order. Bill Sims is here representing the law firm of Moy Story. He's standing in for Brad Woodford, who I will be recommending that you retain this evening to represent you in regards to the open meeting issues that came to light a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Sims has a 6:30 engagement and needs to get out of here, so I appreciate you taking this item out of order. Basically, a couple of weeks ago, some items came up in the council meeting that revolved around possible open meeting law issues. There was a correspondence to the Attorney General's office from the mayor regarding those issues. I think we're all aware of those. During the course of that meeting, council had asked that my ability to look into or investigate the matter or provide legal representation in this matter. I suggested that the council consider hiring an outside attorney to fill that capacity. In the intervening time, I have spoken to other attorneys to find a good person to represent the council in this matter, and several other Valley municipal law attorneys recommended Brad Woodford in this capacity. Spoke to Mr. Woodford a week and a half ago about the case, provided information to him. He is fully prepared to undertake representation of the city in this matter. He has over 30 years of experience practicing municipal law, primarily with the city of Tempe. He's currently working for the law firm of Moy Story, which practices municipal law and government law, represents the municipal risk pool, so well-versed in this area of law. And with that, I would entertain any questions you may have on this, but that is my recommendation for outside counsel in this matter. If Mr. Sims has, if you have any questions for Mr. Sims, he can address the council, or if you have anything you'd like to say. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Mayor, members of the council, Rorick is in the identical position that I found myself. I'm the town attorney for Camp Verde, and we had some allegations that we needed to run to ground, and we actually then retained outside counsel to come and look at us. So what Rorick is suggesting is exactly spot on as to how you should proceed. And I understand there have been some misunderstandings or some concerns regarding the open meeting law. And I must admit, the open meeting law is not a paragon of clarity concerning what is and isn't permitted when you have discussions among elected bodies and elected officials. And hopefully over time we can try to resolve some of that. But currently we have the law we're dealt. We have facts that have occurred. We have allegations. And an appropriate response would be retaining good outside counsel to assist. Brad was the city attorney at Tempe for 30-plus years, was the interim city attorney at Scottsdale. He and I have worked together for about 20 years. I'm his stand-in tonight. And I must admit, I live south of Ahwatukee. I'm so thankful you have a freeway. I didn't realize how hard it was to get out here. But I'm here to answer questions if I can, and I greatly respect your indulgence. I work with a number of other cities and towns, and I've got to get back to the office for a phone conference with Maricopa by 7. Thank you, sir.
Okay, no, thank you for coming this evening. Do we have any comments or questions from the public? Seeing none, again, we're on 9A, approving the retention of outside counsel to provide legal services in reference to open meeting issues. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Councilmember Souza.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve the retention of outside legal counsel to provide legal services in reference to the open meeting issues.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Souza and a second from Councilmember Scott. It's now open for discussion. Councilmember Lord.
Could you just walk me through what you mean by what his job is going to be? Is he going to represent each one of us? Does he come and question each one of us? Does he prepare us for the Attorney General's office to come? I'm not clear on exactly what this is. Could you just enlighten me, please?
I think he'll, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think he'll be doing a little bit of all of that. I think he will meet with each council member to review the facts, to prepare, and also to prepare you for any Attorney General's investigation that may occur. And if that happens, he will represent the board as a whole, not you as individuals.
Thank you.
Questions, comments?
Do you need the firm's name and attorney in the motion?
It would probably be helpful if we had Brad Woodford. I don't believe the motion stated the name of the firm or the attorney. If we could amend that.
It's right there.
It's Brad Woodford at the law firm in Moy Story. I don't think I wrote it that way, so it's my apologies.
It's under contact.
Yes.
It is in the context.
Let's see, where do we want this to go? The council approved the retention of Brad Woodford of Moyson Story, a Phoenix law firm, for outside legal counsel to provide legal services in reference to the open meeting issues.
Thank you.
So moved.
Okay, second agree? Okay, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Frank, you get on that one?
Aye.
And all those opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Everybody wishes they'd get that, right?
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move to the minutes. The minutes are the draft minutes of June 21, 2006, and there are three supplements, or what do we call those, Roar? Supplement?
Technically, they would be corrections.
Okay, three corrections to the minutes submitted by council members Lord, Holland, and Scott. Now, we can accept those, and in fact, I have to ask, is there unanimous consent to accept those? And if there is, then they're accepted. If any one of us objects to that, then they are not accepted, and then what I would like to do, let's see if there's unanimous consent first. Is there anyone object to the corrections submitted by the three council members I mentioned? I object. Yes.
I think that basically, as a whole, that these are clarifications, really, of statements that were made by individuals. And basically, from what I've been able to read this evening, they basically say the same thing, not too much variation. But it's the individual's idea or remembrance of what he or she said during the course of that meeting on July 21st.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think it goes way beyond that myself. So I am objecting. I may be in a minority here. Councilmember Cavalier, are you supporting the minutes or objecting?
No, I'm objecting because I don't remember all of that everything I read in there was certainly not what I heard at the meeting.
Okay,
Does he have the latest version that we were given this afternoon when we sat down with guys?
Right. Does Frank have
Because
this?
Got this.
Does Frank have this?
Frank, you have the latest version of the corrections?
He doesn't.
Yes, I did get the latest version, yes.
Mr. Mayor, he has the comments, but he does not have them
He doesn't
in
have
the.
He doesn't have them in the red line.
No, those are just.
It's the same comments.
Same comments.
Yes,
Just not
okay.
in the red line.
Okay. It sounds like we have two people who will not give unanimous consent. I would ask,
Mr. Mayor, can I seek some clarity from the city attorney on the timing of these real quick
yes,
while you're reading what you're reading?
I have before you do, and I'll certainly, I have a city council meeting speaker request form for the minutes. So, and I believe I have the authority to permit that. But before I do, Councilmember Antoniak.
Yeah, I'm curious. The red line comments that we have, are we in fact positive that Councilmember Cavalier is looking at the same document that we're looking at?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, he's not looking at the same document. He has the draft minutes with the comments attached at the end. That's in your council packet.
Okay.
The red line was completed late this afternoon, and he has not seen that.
And there hasn't been changes since the draft minutes were given to us in our packet?
Just the comments were taken from the back of the document and redlined in.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
I want to be sure that we're...
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I think we're getting onto some really thin ice here. If we require a unanimous vote here as to whether or not we're going to accept the corrections made to the minutes by the people who made them, then we are going to set a precedent for any future minutes that are read to this council and any corrections that are made in those minutes. Because I would draw an analogy here between a deposition. If you give a deposition, before you ink that deposition, it's handed to you for correction. Whatever corrections you make that's the final part of the deposition. I don't see how these minutes are different from that.
I think that I was instructed by the attorney before I came to the dais that the way I'm handling it is the appropriate way according to Robert's rules.
Well, I beg to differ. Maybe you're right, but we have a parliamentarian here with Robert's rules in front of him. Would you read that, please?
Could be a bit lengthy, but I will read the minutes section. I'll start with reading and approval of the minutes. And this is instructive on how to conduct the meeting, so there are some items here that are not directly relevant, but I want to give it to you in the entirety. The chair says the secretary will read the minutes. In all but the smallest meeting, the minutes are read by the secretary standing. In the organizations where copies of the minutes of each previous meeting are, as prepared by the secretary, are sent out to all members in advance, the actual reading of them aloud may be waived if no member objects. In either case, the chair then asks, are there any corrections to the minutes? And pauses. Corrections, when proposed, are usually handled by unanimous consent. It is generally smoother to do the approval of minutes also by unanimous consent, although a formal motion to approve them is not out of order. Such motions are normally unnecessary unless, for example, there has been a dispute over the accuracy or propriety of something in the minutes. I can continue reading unless we'd like to read about unanimous consent, but I thought that was the relevant section.
The unanimous consent?
We can read about unanimous, yes.
I think we need to.
Adoption of a motion or action without a motion by unanimous or general consent. In cases where there seems to be no opposition in routine business or on questions of little importance, time can often be saved by the procedure of unanimous consent, or as it is also called, general consent. Action in this manner is in accord with the principle that rules are designed for the protection of the minority and generally need not be strictly enforced when there is no minority to protect. Under these conditions, the method of unanimous consent can be used either to adopt a motion without the steps of stating the question and putting the motion to a formal vote, or it can be used to take action without even the formality of a motion. To obtain unanimous consent in either case, the chair states, if there is no objection, the action that he mentions will be taken, or he may ask if there is any objection to question. He then pauses, and if no member calls out, I object, the chair announces that since there's no objection, continue. The action is decided upon. If any member objects, the chair must state the question on the motion, allow any desired debate, and put the question in the regular manner. Or if no motion has been made, the chair must first ask, is there a motion to, or he must at least put the question assuming there is such a motion. If there's an objection is made with a reasonable promptness, even though the chair may have already announced the result of one of no objection, he should disregard such an announcement and proceed to state the question in the usual manner. Unanimous consent does not necessarily imply that every member is in favor of the proposed action. It may only mean that the opposition, feeling that it is useless to oppose or discuss the matter, simply acquiesces. Similarly, when a member responds to the chair's inquiry, is there any objection, with I object, he may not necessarily oppose the motion itself, but he may believe that it is wise to take a formal vote under the circumstances. In other words, the objection is raised not to the proposed action, but to the action being taken without a formal vote. No member should hesitate to object if he feels that it is desirable to do so, but he should not object merely for dilatory purposes. If such a member is uncertain of the effect of an action proposed for unanimous consent, he can call out, I reserve the right to object, or reserving the right to object. After brief consultation, he can object or withdraw the reservation. The correction and approval of minutes is an example of business that is normally handled by unanimous consent. As a second example, well, I don't think we need to go into these second examples. In cases where unanimous consent is already apparent, the chair may sometimes assume it. Well, I think that is all the relevant information. But it seems to imply that if there's no unanimous consent, you move to a motion. In my
Seems
mind,
to imply what?
that if there's no unanimous consent, you move to a motion. That's how I read it.
Okay.
But we do have a request from a citizen to speak before us.
Sure, okay.
All right, and then we will move and try to explain how I'd like to do that, and certainly in accord with Robert's rules, although this is a little challenging situation for Robert, I think. Gail Rusing, would you please come forward?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I was definitely present at the meeting, and the minutes themselves were pretty well done. It was very difficult for our city attorney to keep track of everything that was said. His minutes were pretty well done. A few little errors and omissions that I'm sure he's well aware of, some unfinished lines and so on, no big deal. However, then when what should have been called on the website proposed amendments came in, I was very surprised because those amendments are quite inaccurate and it's sometimes totally untrue. And that's all I will say. You can look into it further later. There were other people at the meeting and we can discuss it at length if you would like. But you all know, you were all there. So you all know what was and was not said. And I really appreciate that these minutes were not passed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're now at the point where we need to take a motion on the minutes. And if you agree, what I would do, and I think the attorney does not object to this, but certainly I'll listen to your objections here, is that we would take each of the objections by council member in the entirety and ask for a motion to approve or deny them in their entirety. We'll go through all three in that manner. If any of them fail, then we will give the particular council member the option to go through each item that they do want additional deliberation on to approve it or deny it. Yes, sir.
I have a question. That's one way to do it. How about if we had a motion out there to accept the minutes with their corrections as made, as a single entity. And that motion carries, then there's no reason to dissect this one at a time here.
Yeah, and if it does carry, you're right, but if it doesn't,
Then we can go back.
I don't know if we can.
Why not?
No, I don't know why you couldn't.
Because we just denied the minutes.
You're going to have
Oh,
to,
you denied the motion.
if the motion lost, you could certainly re-examine or offer a different motion, something substantively different. But I think,
Okay, well, yes, ma'am.
We're still in discussion, so I don't know if this is right, but I would like to make sure at this point that we note that whenever we have a meeting, that we need someone in there besides our lawyer taking the minutes, and it should be on a computer, because the pressure that we put on him that night was extraordinary. It was a very emotional meeting, and so his job was to try to control the meeting as well as get the minutes. So it made it somewhat difficult. So I would like it to propose that is a policy of our council to always do that.
And
And
Councilman
if we
Lord,
don't have it, then we don't have the meeting until we get somebody.
yeah, that's
Simple.
Yeah, and we've discussed that for as long as I've been on council, and there's been a reluctance to take minutes like that. I have no objection to that, but there has been a reluctance.
Well, I have to tell you, after getting an open meeting violation, I would like to have everything written down personally from now on.
Or videotape.
I feel videotaped. I feel like I need the
When we're
protection.
videotaped, there shouldn't be any problem.
This was confusion because I think obviously it wasn't taped because we thought it was going to be an executive session. Is that not correct?
Well, you were advised before the meeting that we're going to have a special meeting.
To go in,
No, you were advised, and I gave it to Rourke, and he advised every one of you that it would be dependent on the council whether or not we go into exec session. We may not need to.
okay.
And I have a copy of that document with.
I went in that understanding
Yeah.
when I went in there.
Oh, okay,
But we weren't prepared for the note-taking.
right.
No, absolutely.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
could you review what has been said? Some of this wasn't very clear, especially from Councilwoman Lord. I couldn't quite hear everything.
Okay, Councilmember Lord was stating that in any meeting we have in the future, particularly one in which it is not videotaped, that we need to have someone specifically assigned to take minutes. That it was too hard of a burden on Rourke, and that's probably true. What's the word for minutes, or word for word?
Verbatim.
Verbatim. Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, yes.
Because that's what we've discussed for many years, and there's been a reluctance on the part of staff to do that.
That's why we went to the recorder.
Especially when it gets to be heated somewhat, because everybody's emotions are high. So consequently, you're trying to retain what you said and the other person said, and if you're involved in your thought process, you do miss sometimes what the other person's saying.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, that was Councilmember Lord's comments, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And, okay, so now I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes to include the objections by each of the three council members. Is that correct?
Is it objections or amendments?
Corrections. Corrections.
technical term is corrections, yes.
And that's, okay, that's the term. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections by council members Lord, Councilmember Holland, and Councilmember Scott. Can I have a motion for that,
I'll make
please?
that motion. A motion to accept the minutes from the before-mentioned date with the corrections offered by the three council members with regard to their issues in the minutes.
I second it.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Scott and a second from Councilmember Holland. It's open for discussion. Councilmember Souza?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, before I vote on this, Ms. Rusing made statements just a while ago that she was not comfortable with the items that were amended. I think in order for us to have an understanding of where she feels that these minutes that have been amended are in error, that she point that out to us. I know you were reluctant to do it when you came before the council just a moment ago, but I think it's imperative that we understand where you differ in these changes that were made.
Would Would you do that, Ms. Rusing, or you? Do you need a copy of these?
Councilmember Sousa, I am reluctant to do so, and Mayor and Council. I would be happy to do so within the context of something more private. However, I feel as though, as the phrase goes, a great deal of dirty laundry has already been aired in public, and I do not like to see the city of Goodyear being subjected to any more of this. There are untruths. Please think about that as you're looking at approving the minutes. Thank you.
Well, I feel the same way, that I don't want the city to be harmed any more than it has. But if I'm asked to vote on the minutes that have been amended, and you take objection to these very strongly, then it tells me that somewhere along the line here, the changes of the amendments that were made are untruths, and I'm concerned about that. And I don't see that in here. From reading the original draft and the quick changes that were presented to us prior to this meeting starting. And again, here again, it's that last minute stuff that lands on this desk when we have meetings, and we're asked to make decisions based on last minute information. And I'm not about to do that, frankly. I don't know where that puts us, Mr. Mayor,
Well, we have a motion on the table, and it's right now, and you add it to the discussion. Is there any further discussion on the subject? Councilmember Antonia?
I look back at when we very first came on council, and this is the kind of minutes we would get, and we would make our paraphrased remarks, and we would, without making wholesale changes, we would make additions or subtractions or clarifications, and that simply, to me, is what was made. While I respect what Ms. Rusing has said, the seven of us are very much required, which is heir apparent over the last several weeks, that we are to go on public record over certain things, and unless I have something in front of me to make changes, I'm not necessarily willing to change paraphrasing. I mean, that very clearly is what this is. This is a paraphrasing of the remarks of the seven of us at a very heated meeting, at a very contentious meeting, and continue to be that. And I don't necessarily see any, while there may be some comments that you may not agree with, I don't know that it's not necessarily a true reflection of the meeting that took place on June 21st between the seven of us. If that's what's up for debate, then we all should have written down our remarks prior to coming on the meeting and could have had those changes in front of us. It's nice to have the colored copy. It does reflect what we were given earlier, albeit things are at the back of the page, but truly is just a paraphrasing of what we did. This is, to me, no different than meetings that we had 4 or 5 years ago, and that's why now we've got electronic minutes. And while, I think there's the spirit of the group here is to have every single meeting from here on out in these chambers, and I think that's important. And I don't know that I would find myself in the same situation as I did June 21st, and therefore in this situation this evening, questioning any one of my peers, any one of the 6 of you, about these paraphrased remarks.
Councilmember Scott?
Yeah, I think that's well said, Councilman Antoniak. It's, those corrections that I made right off the top, for example, they were of omission. And I think Rourke did a fine job as a secretary, but I don't think he's a secretary. And there were a lot of things omitted. And that was the biggest correction, as far as I could see, was to add on to the omissions that were left out. I don't see any dramatic changes in anything. There aren't any in anything that I added to this. So, I feel comfortable with that, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Councilmember Lord?
I also feel comfortable. I actually talked to Roy and reviewed and wanted to make sure that there was a memory of some of this, make sure, and I searched my soul to make sure that this is exactly what I heard that night, and I stand by exactly what I wrote in the minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Vice Mayor, do you have any comment?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, Mayor, the comments I have would be that some of the information that was on the addendum or changes to the minutes were not things I heard and that night of the meeting. So it's not that anything is damning or that anything might not have been said at one time or another, but I'm not sure it was said at that particular meeting because I don't remember those statements being said by at least two council members, and that's Councilman Scott and Councilwoman Lord. Councilwoman Holland's comments were, I think, more pointed to corrections of what she said at the meeting, where the other two were comments about what had taken place at certain events. And in my mind, I could live with the changes for Councilwoman Holland, but I cannot for the other two because they were not statements, and right or wrong, they were probably made at one time or another, but I don't think they were made at that meeting at our last meeting. Thank you.
In response to that, they couldn't have been made in any other meeting by the reference to the comments. There's no way that those comments I made could ever have been taken in any other meeting. It's just precisely dialogue from that meeting. So I disagree. Respectfully, Frank, I disagree with you.
Councilmember Antonio?
I was just going to ask the Vice Mayor to be a little bit more specific. Everybody's being kind of cryptic about what they say is true and untrue, and I'm having a hard time wrestling with that fact. It's posed before us. So if the Vice Mayor is willing to be, more specific, then be more specific. If Ms. Rusing's willing to be more specific, be more specific. But I'm hard pressed to change paraphrased remarks of any individual or of anything that occurred that evening.
Okay, and just my comment, and then I guess we'll move to the vote. I think we'll take a roll call vote. I think all of us should be accountable for our votes on this subject. It's of import, and it's some of the terms used in here are quite exact and specific. I found objection with comments from all three members in their purported corrections, but I think it's important that they assume responsibility for those, and that's what they're doing. And, of course, now they're assuming that they're making the city responsible for those corrections also now. So I'll be voting against it, but I would like to call for a roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor, or Councilmember Sousa,
No. Nay.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Lord,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Antoniak,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cavalier,
No, nay.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Nay.
Passes 4-3.
And a record will be made of the votes. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll now move to, there are no expenditures to approve or ratify. We'll get to communications. Are there any comments by council members or members of the staff or public on any item in which you would like to commend an individual for their efforts? Is there any comment on that? Okay, seeing none, we'll now move to council members' reports on current events. Councilmember Holland.
I see that Sean's not in here this evening, but last Wednesday, he and I said, raise your hand. Maybe I'm just too short, Sean, I see. But we had a wonderful experience touring the Central Arizona project in their jet assist helicopter, so that then it just took off and moved, and it was very exciting. We toured all the canals, and it was explained to us why those particular sites were chosen and where the new developments were. We could see everything from the air, and I just found the trip to be absolutely amazing, and hope the rest of our council people get an opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Okay, opportunity now for the city manager for summary of events.
I just have one comment. I've been away a week in Colorado, and I just want council to know that I did visit all the skateboard parks. And I brought lots of information back to give Brian. There was so much information that would be really relevant to us to look at as a group, that we might want to do that before we definitely see that BMX/skateboard park, because it was very revealing. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Council Member Lord, would you suggest like a work session, or it could be included in one of our work sessions that we have?
I think that I'd like to, first of all, go ahead and give it to Brian, and then I have telephone numbers and things that can verify the information, and then he does a workup on it and then present it to us. I think that's, I'm assuming we have time, is that right? Before some of these decisions on, we made a decision what we thought we would do to combine the two. And with this new information, what? Fill me in here.
Can you give it to staff?
You'll have to go stand up there if you're going to speak. Identify yourself, please.
Mayor, Council Member Lord, it's under construction now. We anticipate having it completed first part of the year. And there should be enough time to bring that back to council and discuss it further.
But there really wasn't anything else we were doing for the BMX side of it, right? We were just sharing it, isn't that, in the construction of it? In the construction of the skateboard park, really, basically, we're building a skateboard park.
Mayor, Councilman Member Lord, as I recall it, we were going to do it on a trial basis and come back to council report to some degree the status of the commingle use and take it from there.
Well, this information is all on the commingling and interviews, as well as information, and took pictures, saw what was happening there. So it's lots of information for you to use.
Great. Look forward to it.
Any other comments from council? City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, 2 items. We have new staff members that we'd like to have introduced. If Brian and Jim would make those introductions, please.
Thank you. Just real briefly, Mayor, members of the council, I'd like to introduce newest management assistant for me, Kim Benden. Kim, if you can come up, that way you're on camera. And Kim, if you take 15 seconds on your background, and then we'll turn it over to Jim to introduce his management assistant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Kim Benden, and I am the management assistant working for Brian, coming from the Arizona Supreme Court. I have experience in project management and have lived in the West Valley for 10 years and love it, so look forward to working with you.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to also introduce a management assistant working for me. In this particular case, we looked a little closer to home. Connie Stepnitz was promoted from the finance department, and just in the past 2 weeks, she's done an incredible job for me already, and I look forward to all the assistance she'll be providing in the future, and I'll let her come up and, again, give you a few seconds of her history and background.
Council and Mayor, I'm glad to have this opportunity. I'm especially proud of the internal promotion. I'm a retired Air Force veteran, 20 years. After that, I went into human resources. I worked for the City of Phoenix. I have about 25 years of customer service experience, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome to both of you. Look forward to working with you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that's all we have to report at this time.
Okay, if I could ask if I could return to number communications. Current events, I should have mentioned, Lois Robinson is leaving us. She's been offered an assignment as the town manager in Youngtown, and she has accepted that. So we'll be missing her in the mayor and council staff. She's done an exceptional job for us, and of course her personality endeared her to everyone in this room and in the entire city. I should also thank Ms. Watson and Ms. Dalton for speaking on behalf of Ms. Robinson at the Youngtown town meeting. Okay, we'll now move to we're now on citizen comments, and here's an opportunity for any citizen to make a comment on any subject which is not on the agenda this evening. We have 3 items on our agenda. Any comments? Seeing none. Consent, we do not have a consent item this evening. We're now on business. The first business item was we passed the approving the retention of an outside counsel for open meeting law issues. And the second one is retention of outside legal counsel / review retail consultant experience and qualifications. So, Rourke, you have that one?
I do. Mr. Mayor, members of council. The second item this evening is an item to retain an outside consultant to review the experience and qualifications of the retail consultant, Gail Rusing. My office was asked last week to investigate whether this is something we could present to council. So last week we did some research as far as the firms that could do this type of work. Found Investigative Research, Inc., primarily Keith Sobrowski. He's on vacation, seems to be a theme this evening. Pamela Williams from his office is here this evening if you would have any questions regarding their firm's qualifications and what type of work that they do. Have met with Ms. Rusing regarding this matter. She's in agreement to having this type of review conducted on her and has in fact signed a release and a consent form with the city to conduct this review. With that, I will answer any questions you may have regarding this matter.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of the investigative team on their procedures? Yes, sir.
I have a question of our attorney.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. He was going to call up the investigator. Okay. Then could I have a motion to approve the retention of investigative research to provide the review of the retail consultant's experience, and then we'll ask you questions.
Mr. Mayor, I move the City Council approve the retention of Keith A. Sobrowski. Is that correct, Sobrowski?
Yes.
Sobrowski?
Yes.
Second it.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Souza, a second from Vice Mayor Cavalier. It's now open for discussion and questions. So, Councilmember Scott?
I'm a little confused as to why we're doing this at this late stage of the game. We have a consultant under contract on board, and all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden necessarily, but coming before this body is a request for permission to do an investigation on the background of this. There's got to be something to this that I don't know about, and therefore I'll assume that other members of the council don't know about it also. Can you enlighten us on this?
I was asked by the mayor to retain this expert. He may want to speak to that, but it was felt that it would be beneficial at this time to do this review in light of the fact that the council will be reviewing this matter again on August 28th. That's the information I have.
Okay, if I could respond. Yes, I believe, and I'm sure virtually everyone in this room who works with the city or is on the council is aware of the rampant rumors and disparaging thoughts and points concerning Ms. Rusing. She has been victimized by clearly unfounded reports of her, and I think we owe it to her for a fair hearing. We owe her the opportunity to clear her name, a name that has been abused through the process of starting to work with the city of Goodyear. I think we have a moral obligation there. I also think that if Ms. Rusing, as Ms. Rusing becomes more involved with the city in the conduct of her duties as the consultant, or if she later applies and is selected for the retail position, then I think we have to have an understanding on the part of staff that these rumors are false. And I say that because if they're true, and we'll find out with the investigative report, then she won't continue as the consultant, and she won't be picked for the retail person on our payroll. So this basically is intended to clear the air. Is Ms. Rusing qualified to work for the city of Goodyear? we owe her that much, and she's willing to accept the consequences. And the second thing is, if in fact we find that these rumors are not true, then the staff should openly and respectfully admit her into their midst. That's what we're trying to do here.
Do you feel comfortable, Mr. Mayor, that the use of an organization like this is going to put to rest whatever rumors you're talking about here?
That's certainly my intention. That's what we should strive for. The person selected or the company selected is not one of which I have an expertise. It is one, however, I do rely on the attorney, and he's recommending them.
If that's the case, if we are going to put to rest whatever rumors are out there, and I don't want to go into the rumor mill now, but if we're going to put those rumors to rest once and for all, then I support this. But I don't feel real comfortable that that's going to happen. But if we can do that, that's fine.
Thank you. Councilmember Lord.
Well, first of all, on the rumor side of it, I actually didn't hear all those rumors until way after this last meeting. I only heard one rumor. And so I learned more from the meeting and more after the meeting than I knew before. But in my opinion, if the consultant feels, as an independent public review is necessary to substantiate her qualifications and experience and her reputation, and that's certainly you're right, as a retail consultant, it should be contracted through her consulting firm and should not be paid out of the taxpayers' pockets. I just don't see where I can say to the taxpayers, yes, we're going to pay for this lawyer to do this review. I just can't go along with that. And I don't even have anything.
Councilmember Lord, it's understandable you may not have been aware of all the rumors that were going through the city because as council members, we aren't that involved with the city on a day-to-day basis. As the mayor, I sort of am. And I heard them, and I heard multiplicity of rumors, and they were very dismaying. And I think that the city owes it to a person to seek the truth. You owe her the right to seek the truth, and that's what we're asking for here. Councilmember Antonio?
Just a question for the consultant in this particular role, the investigative service. What would you anticipate the total cost of investigation of this nature?
When I spoke to Mr. Massey, we thought that maybe the hours that we'd have to spend would accumulate maybe $5,000 to $10,000. It all depends on how many people are involved. Once we're able to identify all the allegations against her and see how many parties have interest and knowledge about that. So our basic ballpark was about $5,000 to begin with, depending on the depth and the scope of how far we have to go and how many people we have to come in contact with.
I don't have any more questions for her necessarily, but I do have some other questions, maybe for staff here. Rorik, is this a first for you? Is this the first in your career? Have you seen other cities engage in this kind of activity?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, typically, and Kay could probably speak a little bit more on this than I can, but we do a background check on individuals, and certainly as you reach higher levels in the organization, you do more in detail background review.
Before you hire them, though.
Yes, and typically, I don't recall us doing one after the employment or the contract's already commenced, but
I guess to this extent is what I'm getting at. The $5,000 to $10,000 expense.
Yes.
Seems abnormal to me.
No, well, I would compare it to some reviews that have been undertaken, personnel, et cetera. No, it's not unusual for the cost to be in that ballpark. If we were to look into, say we're looking to employee or personnel issues and we have to bring in an outsider, an independent consultant, this is probably in the ballpark. I don't know if that answers your question. Have we done it on this specific of a topic? No, but when we have brought in management consultants to look at personnel issues in the past, this seems a pretty competitive rate.
I'm struggling with this because it's a $5,000 to $10,000 expense on the part of the taxpayers. Mayor, while I respect your judgment, and I've stated that on the record many, many times, and I respect your in touch with staff, I take exception to the remarks that you, and I'll say I, in this fact, owe anybody anything. While there may be disparaging remarks that have resulted in the city as a result of actions that were taken by you, by this council, by others to engage in personnel matters in the city, then so be it. Then there might be those rumors that are out there. But for me to engage in personnel related matters, for me to continue this dialogue related to personnel related matters is what this is. And I in no way, shape, or form have based my past remarks on any rumors, innuendos, anything else that I may or may not have heard. I quite frankly had heard nothing until June 21st, which was on the record and in the minutes. Until that point, I had heard nothing of any rumors or any allegations that were floating around the city. While I respect that you have a $5,000 to $10,000 expense here, is not something that I feel I owe or that the taxpayers owe anybody. If anything, I think the seven of us owe the taxpayers and owe the public a very extenuating and a very difficult dialogue on economic development in this city. And if what results from that we hire a consultant or that we hire individuals to target specific areas in the city to find out that there's issues, which I think we may find out forthcoming in the management assessment, that we're hiring somebody to do a very thorough management assessment. I think we may ferret some of those things out that you, quite frankly, may want to ferret out with this $5,000 to $10,000 expense, and that's going to be a much more expensive endeavor in the next several months. But I think what is owed here of anybody is exactly that, a very open public dialogue of anything moving forward with any matter related to our hiring processes, our economic development processes, or what have you. But I'm not necessarily inclined, and I think there's probably a few others that aren't necessarily inclined as taxpayers to spend $5,000 to $10,000 to further this. I think it just distracts us from the discussion. I think it distracts the public from the discussion, which is back in March and April, we were approached. We were asked to look into doing this. We did so on a consent agenda. The public didn't have any dialogue with the seven of us. We had no dialogue with the seven of us. And then what has resulted is what's played out in the public sense. And I'm not, quite honestly, I'm disturbed by the fact that we're hiring another outside attorney to deal with this issue. I'm disturbed by the fact that now you're asking us to hire a $5,000 to $10,000 line item to continue to do it.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, can we give everybody a first shot here? And I don't believe, is this an attorney?
I was about to jump there. No, this is not
I'm sorry.
an attorney.
Let me stay on the record. I'm disturbed by want a $5,000 to $10,000 expense on this fact, but also the fact that our actions have resulted in a previous action, item 9A, which we've now had to retain an attorney at the taxpayer's expense to look into open meeting law violations. That's what I was.
Which is the previous subject.
Which is the previous subject, but germane to this topic, Mayor. Very germane.
It really isn't, I don't think. But Councilmember Souza?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, since March 21st, or
June.
No, I'll let it go back. Well, the original signing of the contract for the retail consultant was done in March, okay? And this young lady has been on board in the city of Goodyear since that time. Now, these reflections have come about on the June 21st meeting. And in fact, you know, if we are responsible as a council to determine whether or not these allegations are true, if they actually happen, are they a figment of somebody's imagination? And I'm not comfortable sitting here and having that hang over my head without having an appropriate investigation relative to this individual to determine fact or fiction. And I think it's important for the council as a whole
to have the dirty linen, if it is, brought to the surface, and let's wash it out and get it cleaned and get this city on the move again. And I agree with Councilman Antoniak. The question here is, how effective are we going to be in economic development? We've been dragging our feet in this area for quite some time. I think it's about time to move into the commercial and the large retail entities, so that we can relieve the tax burden of the residential owner and get this city moving where it should be, like other cities that surround us. It's a shame for us to sit here and see what development is going on in our sister cities, and we just are stagnated for some reason or other, and I just can't comprehend it. But I think, basically, Mr. Mayor, I think you're on the right path here, and we should have an investigative source going through this investigation and coming up with the truth on this issue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Holland?
Is it normal for us to have a background investigation on one of our consultants that we hire? I thought we normally just did that on an employee because they were going to be permanently involved with the city from that point on. I'm not used to having that done for one of our consultants that we hire, and we have many that consult back to the city.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I would agree. I believe it's unusual, and I don't know if it has happened in the past. I would have to look to the city manager with many more years' experience with the organization than I have, but I'm not aware of this. He's shaking his head.
So this is kind of a different approach that we're taking here. I guess the other thing that kind of bothers me, besides that particular issue of doing this when we don't normally investigate the backgrounds of our consultants, I too was kind of surprised at some of the rumors that were going around that we heard from that meeting that we had on June the 21st. I also agree with Council Member Lord on the cost. That kind of surprised me. I thought that was a very good point. I'm not sure that's where we want our city dollars to go. The other thing about the investigation is there are rumors that go around our staff, excuse me guys, there are rumors that go around all the time, and we don't always hire investigators to go out and clear up those rumors. Most of the time they just die down. If somebody can prove themselves, those rumors just go away. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what will we be gaining from doing this. So it was really kind of addressed to you, but I know that it's awkward to try to answer those things. So thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Yes, I do have a comment on this, and that is that, number one, I haven't heard any of the rumors that we're talking about. But secondly, I think this position is so important to the city of Goodyear that it's unlike most other consultants hiring position or position-oriented hiring or the position that they're in. Right now, in the position that Goodyear is in, the city of Goodyear, it's very vital to the city that we have a very positive and forward-thinking and very progressive person in that retail management position. And it is important for economic development in retail management to be, it's one of the, right now, one of the most important positions we have in the city. And I therefore think that if there is a problem, if something has been going around, let's get to the bottom of it and let's go ahead and investigate it. It isn't that much money compared to the other monies that we always throw around. I think this is probably well spent, and it will satisfy a lot of people's minds, what we have and what we don't have. So I am for the approval of this to retain and investigative research on this person. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Scott?
Yeah, I think the key word I've heard so far is from Councilmember Citizen. The word was truth. And the problem I have here, well, let me go back historically. The first time I heard any of these rumors was when the mayor gave his little presentation with regard to this person in question here and made a couple of comments about things that were said as her reason for leaving Yuma. Since then, I've heard two other unrelated stories. When I get back to this word truth, what I would like to be guaranteed of, which is not going to happen, I can guarantee it's not going to happen, are concerns, if there are concerns out there, concerns of the staff, who's ever propagating these rumors. When we get done with this investigation, are we going to be able to say to this consultant that we would like you to guarantee us that none of this is true, or it is true, or whatever they find out? There is no way these things can be investigated to that degree, so I'm not convinced we're going to accomplish anything here. I don't think, if we're looking for truth, as I hope we are, I don't think we're going to find it here. I don't see how any investigation could determine a yes or no with regard to some of the things I heard anyway.
Okay, Councilmember Lord.
Yeah, I just have a feeling we're opening up Pandora's box. So that means from now on, we can be assured, any employee, consultant or otherwise, here's a rumor about themselves throughout the city that they're very unhappy with, and they can expand on this, make it as large as you want. They can add to the story. They're going to come, and we're going to pay $5,000 to $10,000 more because we've set a precedent, but we're doing this. So if we did it once, then we've got to do it for someone else. And so, my feeling is, she's on board, go out, do your job, prove them wrong, and let's get on with it.
Councilmember Antonia?
Just a little or maybe not clarity. All the allegations, I must be in the dark here about rumors or allegations, but everybody's being very cryptic and very non-specific, and not on point to what we're trying to look at here. And I'm not willing to go down a path that is not clear. One. Two, if we've got issues, we've got staff on hand to deal with those issues, and if they rise to the level of human resources and the need for personnel action, then so be it. Mr. Cleveland, that's your responsibility. I don't want anything to do with it. And I've stated that time and time again, and I'll continue to state it as we move forward. But when I first saw this, I thought to myself, if I had, I went and opened a checking account last week, and they ran a credit bureau on me, and my score came up, and all my credit check came up. And if I had found out at that point that I had $25,000 in delinquent payments from somebody that had stolen my identity and gone off and opened up a credit card and done all kinds of other things, I would be the one chasing it down. I would be the one investigating it, and I would be the one to prove it untrue, that it wasn't myself that took those actions. And, while Mayor, I think we're going to disagree on this, and we're going to continue to disagree on who owes who what. Like a credit check, I would be responsible to go and clean up my credit and clear up my name and deal with it in the way that I saw fit. And I wouldn't be asking a third party to pay for it unless I felt the third party had done something wrong. And in this case, I don't know that the taxpayers have done anything wrong, and I'm not willing to spend $5,000 to $10,000 to find that out.
No one said the taxpayers did anything wrong.
But we're spending the taxpayers'
I know,
dollars.
but no one said the taxpayers did anything wrong, right? It's
we
maybe the
represent-
city did something wrong.
We
Yeah.
represent their dollars, and we're fiscally responsible for their expenditures, and I don't think that, while it may be proven untrue, and we've got departments to deal with that, have the departments go out and investigate it. If they can't handle it within the walls of City Hall and can't investigate it in that manner, then come to us with an expenditure and make a recommendation. But Mayor, you walk down the hall. You're the one asking for this investigation. You're stepping into a managerial role, and I'm not, again, stated that on June 21st, I'm not willing to put you in those shoes.
Okay. Could I say something in my turn? Then we'll get to you. I recognize the comments, and I appreciate those, but the noblest duty we have as a council, this isn't a management issue. We're a council. We're responsible to the people. And our noblest duty is, regardless of the probability of determining truth, our noblest duty is to always seek it. And that's all we're asking for here. That's what we should, in my opinion, be doing. These rumors, I don't know, I am close to the situation. They besmirch this woman's reputation. They are very cutting And I really find it difficult to work in an organization in which that type of environment exists. I would have liked staff members to step forward and say, this is not an environment in which I want to work, where these types of rumors are allowed to continue and spread. But I'm stepping forward. A couple of others here are stepping forward. And our objective here is to seek the truth and respond accordingly once that is sought. And $10,000 for the truth is the best bargain I've ever heard of, quite candidly. Councilmember Scott?
That's a really good point. If you're going to get at the truth. Let me ask a question you may not be willing to answer, but I'll ask it anyway. Have you discussed this rumor mill with this consultant?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, did I discuss that there
The
are
specific rumors that are circulating around there?
I did not.
I would really be interested in knowing from our consultant how many of these rumors this consultant thinks that her company could help with, because I would be amazed if they could get at the truth with these rumors. I don't know how you would go about doing it. I'm not a PI, but I don't know how you go about doing it. And I think we ought to take that step if there's any question about hiring the consultant or not.
Let me just to clarify. The two consultants, so the
PI consultant.
I did not, because I didn't want to taint the investigation. I would let them start with a clean slate and leave wherever it goes.
Okay, that's fair.
Ma'am, did you have something to say?
No, I was just trying to really listen to him. I couldn't hear him quite well enough.
Okay.
I'd like to ask the consultant a question, Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Sure.
Okay, here you go.
In your experiences in situations such as we find ourselves in here, does this truth win out?
Well, as far as I found, I've been doing this for 10 years. My boss has been doing this for 30 years. Past 15 years, we've been really focusing on municipal cases, administrative investigations, personnel investigations, sexual harassment, that type of thing, hostile work environment. And yes, we do find the truth out, because when people, such as employees and staff, they get to come forward and they get to actually speak their mind about things they weren't able to speak about before. And there's several different types of warnings, and there's the Garrity warning, there's other types of things, the whistleblower's clause, things that they get to read beforehand, letting them know that it's okay to speak the truth. They are not going to have to suffer any consequences for coming forward and saying what is going on. And no, I don't know any of the allegations that are going on, and that's the first step of the investigation. Let's find out what the allegations are from the city manager, from Mr. Massey, from the mayor, what is actually out there, and let's identify the people that need to be spoken to find the truth,
Then you'd go to outside sources as well.
Absolutely.
Where it first began.
In this situation, the scope of the investigation, I believe, would have to start back with her history, just based on what I just heard in this room today, something about Yuma, and verify or, disprove anything that happened there. Plus, another scope of the investigation would be within the city of Goodyear and with the developers. And again, this is just based on what I've read today. We don't have any other type of information about what the investigation would entail or what the allegations and rumors are against her.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does that assuage your concern?
Does that help?
It really doesn't, John.
She just said she thinks she can get to the truth, and you were saying you're concerned about the probability.
I almost can guarantee with some of the rumors I heard, she's not going to get to the truth. That's just my opinion.
No, I understand that. I respect that. But the fact that, well, of course, the expert thinks she can.
But she doesn't know what the allegations are.
She's been doing it for 10 years. There's nothing here that she hasn't seen in 10 years, I'm sure.
No, and the majority of it, Mayor, has been municipal, type things, with large organizations and...
With outside consultants or normally people within the city staff?
All different ranges.
Do you have an
Mayor.
example of this type of case?
I have not personally.
One
I don't
second,
know
Frank.
if Keith has or not. I cannot speak for it. I've been with him for 5 years, and he's been doing this for 30.
It should be pointed out that you're not going to be handling this investigation.
I will be assisting Keith Zabrowski, who is the president, yes.
But he's going to be the
But he will
front
be, yes, I'm sorry,
And he's been doing it for how long?
30 years. He's 30 years in the valley.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yes, what I want to say was that we're talking to people who are authorities in their field, and the people on the staff we people on the council are not authorities on all these fields. I know sometimes we think when we are elected to the city council that we become all-knowing, but that is not true. And I put my faith in the people who have the authority and the people have the background. And we should use that and not us try to second guess what might or might not be the result. And I disagree with Councilman Scott when he said that we aren't going to get to the bottom of this. I don't see how he has any proof from his experience that this could be true. Let's rely on the experts to do their job. So that's all I'll say.
Councilmember Antoniak, then?
Man, with all due respect, I didn't hear anything different other than maybe you're a private investigative firm and you're going to investigate one specific thing, but I have a feeling that we're going to find a lot out from the management assessment that we've started to engage in of similar fashion that I think goes to the heart of what maybe the mayor's trying to get at, albeit it may not be as specific as this particular instance. I believe we're going to find that there's actions, policies, managerial issues that may come to light as a result of the management assessment. And how much are we spending? I mean, we're spending high five figures, on the management assessment.
And we're 100 and
so 6 figures. We're about to engage on a 6-figure.
It's a 16-week project.
I know exactly, and it's going to ferret out many other issues, I'm sure, that will come to light. And I'm willing to rest my laurels on that management assessment and let that be what it is, and without diving into the specific investigation.
Okay.
With all due respect to your comments, of course, we're going to hear that we're going to get to the bottom of the truth. There's a bit of salesmanship that has to happen here. I mean, just the same as an advertising or any other firm, an attorney's firm, any other firm would do if they were trying to be retained. So of course you're going to tell us we're going to get to the truth. You wouldn't want to give us anything less in your answer.
Could I ask how much that is? What are we spending?
$180,000 is what.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lord, the management assessment proposal was submitted to us for just over $180,000, and staff's currently negotiating that.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Scott?
No, I had nothing else to say.
Councilmember Holland?
I just wanted to reiterate this again, so we don't forget it, but this is not normally done for a consultant.
But what other consultant has had rumors spread about them?
Many in places I've worked before.
No.
I don't know here.
We're talking about here. Here.
I don't know very many.
I don't know of any. And if there were, I think I'd take the same action. Is our concern, okay, we all want the truth. Is our concern, we all have a responsibility to our citizens. Is our concern the money?
That's part of it.
No, I think it's because it's different. It's out of the normal.
It's extraordinary, which we're supposed to be able to respond to extraordinary requirements. Is it, if the money is taken care of, are you okay?
No, I don't think it's necessary. I just don't.
Anybody can pay for this.
We are all of a sudden I don't know. When I took the oath, it said that I was going to be a policymaker and that through ordinances and resolutions, and all of a sudden, I become a manager. I become a staffer. That's not my role. And so now I'm getting into this, and I'm having to deal with this. I really, Rob. Whoa! How did I get here? I really am, Mayor. All due respect to you, and I know by the way you talk that you're very emotionally involved in this, and you very sincerely feel about this way. What you're stating, you truly feel about it. And
I'm devoted to seeking truth,
and
there's no limit.
And I get that from you, and I got it from the last meeting we had, the special meeting. So, your motives are your motives, and they're sincere. I just have to tell you how my feelings are, the way I look at it. And so, I have nothing else to say.
I understand, I appreciate that, but I do think that there have been rumors throughout the city which are unkind, probably untrue, possibly unfounded, but are harmful to a human being. And nothing has been done to correct those. So as a council, we're assuming a responsibility to get that done. That's what I see us doing here today. And it is an extraordinary requirement. But that's what makes life worthwhile. We respond to extraordinary requirements. That's why we're hopefully in these chairs. How about this? If my wife and I fund the 10,000, will you vote for it then, and it'll be run through Rourke?
No, I would not. Again, that's something way out of what the concept of what a council does and what you should be doing as a mayor. And I, whether you want to protect yourself or not, I'm going to protect you by saying that is not the position a mayor should be taking in the city.
But you really
Because
should
you're going
defer
get
to
a
the
lot of
mayor as to
cases
what
coming.
his responsibility
You're going to
is.
get a lot of cases coming to you, Mayor, for you and your wife to take care of. If you go over that step, there'll be hundreds of people coming to you and saying, Mayor, because you are so involved in how our well-being, then I want you to help me get through this, this, and that. I just think that it's
Well,
It's
rest
not
assured,
acceptable.
you are not helping me, because I am so dedicated to seeking truth that I'll pay any dollar for it. And to know what's happened to this woman is horrible.
And Mayor,
But let's take a vote.
Mayor,
Can we do that?
You don't need our endorsement to go and spend the money on a private investigative service.
Okay, no, it could come to me if may I finish? It goes to Rourke. The only difference on this whole thing is I pay for it. It's all within the city structure. I had no control over it under this condition. That's what I'm saying.
And anybody to this date has, just some factual stuff. Nobody has written me a letter. Nobody has gone on record. Nobody has stated what any allegations are outside of the June 21st meeting that you brought to light.
But are you denying them? No, you are not denying them.
I don't
You just
know.
aren't aware of them, but
Nobody-
you don't have to be aware of them.
But let me finish too. You can get to the bottom of this by any means. If you want to pay $5,000 to $10,000 out of your own hard-earned money, by all means, feel free. You can report that. You can give direction to them. They can give it back to the city attorney. If you don't want to see it, put it in a sealed envelope, and you can claim that you never saw it. And it went directly to them. It was an unencumbered investigation, and you did so. And that would be a noble cause, and if you want to do that, by all means, go for it. I'm not necessarily going to vote up or down as to whether or not to endorse that. If that seeks truth, that seeks truth. Fine. But I think there's been a series of steps that have taken place over the last 90 to 120 to 180 days, and we found ourselves at this juncture now, and we've come to a $5,000 to $10,000 expenditure, and the straw on the camel's back is broken for me. And that's where I'm at. Truth, fine. You got to go seek truth. I agree with you. Go seek truth. But in this case, this is not somebody that is covered under the city structure. This is not somebody that these are not allegations. Nobody has written anything to this individual or to us as a whole to say, this is what's going on in your city structure. This is what's going on. I have held up that I think the management assessment for the last 3 years needs to go out and look for that. And I'll be looking for the management assessment to ferret those things out.
I don't believe that's in the
It
statement
may
of
not
work.
seek truth in this specific case, but I think
I don't
you'll
think
see-
it's in the statement of work for the management
Well, I
assessment.
think you'll.
I hope $180,000 is not going to come back that it doesn't work.
Well, I think
No
you're.
one said that.
Well,
I think
what
you're going to
was your
see
answer? I thought that's what your answer
practices
was.
and
I'm
best
sorry.
practices.
No.
I must have
The
missed something.
management assessment is not to confirm rumors or deny rumors. It's about the city manager's responsibility in managing 400 people and the services of this city. This is a specific issue, and it's not covered in the management assessment. That doesn't mean they might not come up with something, but this is months down
That you have
on
been
the road.
personally involved in from the get-go, from the very start, Mayor. You've been personally involved in this from the very beginning. And quite honestly, when we personally get involved, we start to lose our own objectivity about specific issues.
Okay, I need not to respond to that, so that's, I shouldn't. Okay. It's time, are there any further comments? Okay, could I have a roll call vote, please? And get the motion and the second are understood? Okay? Roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Cavalier,
Aye.
Councilmember Antoniak,
Nay.
Councilmember Holland,
Nay.
Councilmember Lord,
Nay.
Councilmember Scott,
Nay.
Councilmember Souza,
Aye.
fails 4-3.
And I would
The
be
mayor
an
didn't
aye.
vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm an aye. I definitely want that recorded, by the way.
That's a good assumption.
Apologize. Okay, we come to our last item on the agenda, and that is the discuss the recruitment of senior retail development manager. And if I could precede the city manager with a comment here, I did ask the manager to, because of the difficulties we're having here in our retail, if he would recruit for the existing retail position. I never suggested that we raise the level of that position. I said recruit for the existing position. City manager?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the mayor's observation is it was a suggestion regarding the recruitment of the position. It was staff's determination that in reviewing that it would be appropriate to look at, is it classified in a position at a level that would actually obtain qualified, highly qualified candidates. In so doing, we have come forward with a senior retail person that is a little bit higher than the current position. And in doing this, the only reason this item's in front of you tonight, my normal course would be to do what we previously did this evening, which is to introduce individuals that we have hired. But given the circumstance of the discussions that are going on, it's important, as noted in the council report, that at such time as a job offer would be made, it is important for the council to then take action relative to the contract. Because currently the existing contract is being financed by the funds for a vacant position that is a retail program manager within the Economic Development Department. So there would be a need to properly close the contract and to advise the consultant at that time or at any time that the council so chooses regarding that matter. We do have, with the great assistance of Human Resource Department, Economic Development, and other staff, prepared a package, and we are prepared to present that document to you for information purposes so you can see the great length of effort that goes into this recruitment effort. And Holly is providing you the copies of that document. So, again, this was for information. It was just to advise you, given the circumstances, the importance of letting you know where we were. It is available for discussion if you choose to do so. This evening is not intended for any action.
Well, since I did, my name was used in this context. This is a new position.
The position that existed is a program management, retail program management position, program manager, I should say. And what we are proposing to do is reclassify the position, which is authorized under the merit system, under personnel policies and procedures, to align positions properly to the kind of work that is required. And thus, we're taking the existing position and just realigning it.
But whenever we increase the responsibility from one position to another, it always has to be in the budget. That's the way we've worked around here. If you're changing a position, deleting one and making another one, it's always had to be, you had to have it in the budget approved by the council. So it's an action item.
Mr. Mayor, that's absolutely true for a new position, for a reclassified position where things change and the position is taken on different roles and responsibilities or needs for increased for various areas. We point back to those positions, and those are reclassifications. If there's an existing person in it, the position, they get a 2.5% increase. If it's an open position, they just be filled at that entry level of the new range.
If you were an officer in the police force, if you had a position, an officer, and you wanted to be a sergeant, could you reclassify that?
No, there actually has to be a sergeant's position open.
No, I'm sorry. And it's my fault. If you have an officer position, you want to make a sergeant position, an authorized position, can you do that by reclassifying? Or does it have to be included in the budget?
Well, I guess the answer is both. For police and fire, I'm sorry, that's not what you wanted to hear. For police and fire, they're not part of our classification system. So in the fire department or police department, if another sergeant is needed, they would propose that in the budget. If an accounting position has taken on additional responsibilities and they're now going to supervise employees, and that wasn't anticipated prior to the budget year, then a reclassification could take place. We give point factoring for various things, so supervision would be increased for that particular position. If, in fact, it changed the range, that would change the classification level.
Even for a position that is not filled?
True.
You've done that?
That's what we've done in this particular case.
No, have you done that other case?
Oh, yes, sir. That happens all the time, especially with growth being so vibrant here. Things are constantly changing, so as positions take on new responsibilities or roles, if it's necessary to reclass, we don't wait until the budget.
But you change, you delete the lower position and add the higher position?
That's right.
Just by reclassifying?
Yes.
Without being in the budget? Without getting council authority?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, and we do have a position description here, I believe?
Yes, the packet contains all the information, including the position description, also some background information that we'd be using in terms of the recruitment process. We provide that information for your information, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy outside of this meeting to discuss those, and Holly and her staff are prepared also. If you wish to contact them, they could help you answer those questions as well.
Okay, there's no action here.
No action.
Open for discussion. Councilmember Scott.
Thank you. You know, there have been not several, but a few people tonight that alluded to what I'm going to read to you. I'm going to read to you the City Charter, Article 2, the Council. Section 22, Interference in Administrative Service. A, except as otherwise provided in this charter, neither the mayor nor any council member shall interfere with the execution by the city manager of the powers and duties or order directly or indirectly the appointment by the city manager of any person to an office or employment or the removal therefrom. Except for the purpose of inquiry, the mayor and council members shall deal with the administration service under the city manager solely through the city manager, and neither the mayor nor the council member shall give orders to any subordinate, this blah, 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 it goes on. But, you know, we are on such thin ice here. We are policy people, and we're into administrative type decision-making processes here. This, in my opinion, whether or not we need a position such as is stated here, whether we need it or whether we don't need it, is a decision of the city manager. Whether we have somebody internally or we don't have somebody internally is a decision of the city manager working with the director, working with the deputy director. We are out of line here. We're jumping in as policymakers into an administrative role that we have not been elected to do. And I have a real problem with the course of action that we're taking here.
We're not taking any action.
It's figurative. We're asking, the city manager should make the decision as to whether or not we indeed first need this person, and if we do, then how we go about obtaining such a person with their qualifications, et cetera, et cetera. Instead, we are telling them we need this. That's the inference I'm getting here, and I have a problem with the council doing that.
Good, thank you. Councilmember Souza?
But the COAC is not coming from the council. The COAC is coming from the city manager.
You're right, Dick, but why did it get to the city manager? Because the mayor asked it.
No, I didn't ask for a COAC.
You asked, let's see, what did you ask for here?
We've had a position vacant, actually with a qualified person for over a year. We've had a position vacant for about 6 months, and we tried to fill the specific requirement with a consultant because there was no action being taken to fill the vacancy. Now, it sounds like the staff is moving to fill the vacancy, which is good.
But it says here, this is to advise you that the mayor suggested that the staff initiate the recruitment of economic development retail position.
Can I not suggest something?
This is a very strong suggestion. Why did we ask the opinion of the city manager as to whether or not we need this position, and if we do need it, how he would suggest we go about filling it?
I think I used the comments you made at the economic development seminar we had in February, in which you were a little disturbed about the status in economic development, particularly retail, and that we had a position there filled by a person without 1 day's experience in retail. She left soon thereafter, a very fine person, and we've had it vacant. So that's why. Councilmember Lord?
Yeah, I have just a little concern on, under discussion, your fourth paragraph, when you use the word other, and I'll just read what I have. In the fourth paragraph of the document, it states that a list of eligible screeners for the selection of the retail position. And I'm concerned with the use of the word other. Due to our present situation of a possible violation of an open meeting law and the emotional involvement concerning the selection of a retail consultant or retail position, I respectfully request that the council and the mayor not take part on the interview panel or the final selection panel for the position, placing the process back in the hands of the city manager's office. So that's in that fourth paragraph, and that other doesn't define who that other will be on the panel. My recommendation is not any of us, because this whole situation has become so emotional by everybody, and I just think we need to stay out of it and let you do your job. That's what we pay you for, and that's what we pay the staff for.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lord, thank you for the comments, and staff will take that information and work with it.
Further comments, discussion? Okay, that was an action item. I guess we completed the agenda. This meeting is adjourned.